It gives me immense pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to you all to the sixth section of the three-day international virtual conference on gender studies. I'm Rishma Thomas and I will be your moderator for this session. The chairperson for this session is Dr. Sadhaf Shah, Associate Professor, Department of English, University of Jammu, India. I welcome you, sir, to this session. I also welcome all the participants to this session. The participants are Dr. Manjusha Padwardhan, Raman Goswami, Liana K, and Kavita Mahali. Here are a few guidelines that the participants should keep in mind. Paper presenters are requested to keep the time limit of 10 to 12 minutes for their paper presentation. Participants are requested to post their questions intended for the Q&A session in the chat box. Over to you, Sadhaf sir.
Thank you, Reshma, for reading out the introduction. But just to correct you, it's ma'am and not the sir. I welcome you all.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, it's my mistake.
It's okay. It's okay. Good morning. I was reading the title of your papers. All the presenters, it looks very interesting. I think we'll have good deliberations over the next 1 hour. And it'll be very fruitful. Let's see what comes out of it. I'm really excited to listen to all your papers because the titles were really interesting, and it kind of brought in curiosity in me to actually see that what you have written regarding the topics that you have chosen. So once again, all the best for your presentations. So how do we go about it? I mean, do you want that after each paper, if anybody wants to ask or any deliberation you want, we can do that, or should we do it after all the papers are done, and then maybe we can consolidate, or if anybody wants to ask or any deliberation you want, how do you want to go about it? I mean, you can switch on your microphones and we can talk. So which one is all right with you? I mean, after every paper, or after all the papers that we have read?
Ma'am, I think it's better to ask questions after each paper.
So I'm okay. I'm all right. Is everybody all right with this? We can just share any comment, any observation. We can just share, So that'll make a session even more lively and fruitful as well. Chalo, let's begin and we'll see. If we feel that, after every paper we can take a observation or a comment, we'll do that. Otherwise, at the end of the session. So who wants to present the paper first? Should we go according to the schedule that was sent to me? I'll just see the schedule. A schedule has been sent to me. So it's the first is Dr. Manjusha Padwardhan, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology from Mumbai, and the title of the paper is Gender Neutrality in English Language, a Tool for Gender Sensitization. Are you there, Dr. Manjusha? I think probably has not joined. So then we take the next one. That's Raman Goswami.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, from both English Department of English. So the title of the paper is Dr. Foster's as a Renaissance play with a tragic glimpses. It'll be interesting, Raman, for me, because I teach at my post-graduation level. I teach my students Dr. Foster's. So it'll be very interesting, to see a different, a new perspective. Yeah. Okay. All the best.
Okay, ma'am. Honorable Chairperson, respected organizers, all the teachers, all the professors, and my dear colleagues. I'm Raman Goswami, research scholar from Magadha University. The title of my paper is Dr. Foster as a Renaissance play with tragic glimpses. In the beginning, I want to say a quote from Bhagavad Gita. ধর্মক্ষেত্রে কুরুক্ষেত্রে সমবেতা যুজুৎসব মামকা পাণ্ডবাশ্চৈব কিং কুর্বত্ত সঞ্জয় দৃষ্টা তু পাণ্ডবানীকং বুদ্ধং দুর্যোধনস্তদা আচার্য মুপসঙ্গমস্য রাজা বচনম ব্রবীত। As this conference is related with gender studies, so according to Lord Krishna, the whole world, whole universe is just like a battleground for everyone, where we are just a knight, where we are everyone are just like soldiers. We have to struggle for existence. Again, in Bengali literature, it is written that we have to pass 10 dasaj in our life. They are, according to Sri Rup Goswami, Lalosha Udrego Jagrosha Tamarang Jodimatratu Dayagrang Bedhiron Mado Mittur Doshadasho. Now come to my title and my presentation. Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Foster, complicates gender in a variety of ways. First, the text has a very sexist view towards women. Helen of Troy, the Furies, and women, in a general sense, are treated as lesser beings because of their sex. Women in this text are objectified and in complete power of males surrounding them. The men in the text are insecure about their masculinity. Faustus, Benvolio, and the Emperor are all characters that have difficulties with their masculinity. The Renaissance heralded the origin of a new age in Europe. It rings the death knell of the Middle Ages and unheard in a new epoch of bright hopes and rosy ambition. The faint sparkling rays of the Renaissance became visible in Europe quite early in the 16th century. It took time for the Renaissance spirit to reach England, but when the new brightness came, it cleared up the old colorlessness of the unawareness and superstition, and made the way clear for dispersion of new thoughts and new ideals. Although the great Renaissance period, often somewhat imprecisely called the Elizabethan age, came to be markedly original. Its literature had its reign among multitude of ancient and foreign influences. The diverse Renaissance elements that Dr. Foster is filled in are individualism, self-confidence, impatience with earthly limitations, a spirit of revolt, a love of beauty, enjoyment, the object of life, the spirit of adventure, both mental and physical, humanism, patriotism, awakening of people's mind, that is spirit of freedom, zest for life, romanticism, reformation, the measure of blank verse, and above all, the longing for power and knowledge. That may be considered the principal element. When the play opens, Foster stands at the frontiers of knowledge. The whole of Renaissance learning is within his grasp, but on closer scrutiny of the part, the whole crumbles away and he is left with nothing but a handful of dust. Foster takes his first step along the primrose path when he sets material benefits before spiritual blessing, contemplating magic, anticipating its reward with Valdez and Cornelius. He promises himself all the glory and riches of the Renaissance world. From Mephistopheles, he demands to live in all voluptuousness, even before succumbs to the line of magic. His mind has been tempted by thoughts of wealth, be a physician, Faustus, heap of gold. Yet although this obsession with luxury is a flaw in the nature of one dedicated to the search for knowledge, its seriousness must not be magnified until it obscures the real issue. In the first soliloquy, Foster rejects the study of law, learning it to be the mercenary dirge who aims at nothing but eternal treasure. What is certainly far from easy, but what can at least be pointed to are the range and immediacy, the complexity and precision of the local habitation. This tendency to identify the prophecies of astrology with astronomy, the realization of the pagan and sensuous delight of Helen and Cuzidia with the empirical methods of investigating the natural world was common enough in the Renaissance world. Renaissance was leased on the principle of emancipation from the bondage of theology also. And Dr. Foster, in the play, voluntarily frees himself from the heavenly matters of theology, says divinity adieu, and turns his attention to the metaphysics of magician. The very act or his wish to see the face of Helen of Troy brings out the Renaissance love of beauty. Enjoyment is considered to be the object of life as Foster himself uses the 24-year span of his life with the help of necromancy to enjoy his life to the full. All his actions were based upon this principle. Even the minor characters seem to be intent upon enjoyment of life. With the newly acquired power of magical art and with the devil's agent waiting for him to obey his command, helping him to meet his doom much earlier, he assumes complete power over the world and its common people. This sort of strong contempt for the man of the earth with his limited abilities was one of the main characteristics of the Renaissance man. Foster is of humble birth. He also means to raise himself in life by sheer power of his knowledge. He craves for supreme knowledge, and in order to gain it, he sells his soul to the devil for 24 years of absolute power on this earth. Love for power makes him set material before spiritual blessing. Beside his maddening passion for knowledge infinite, there is in him a lust for riches and pleasure and power. He wants to live luxuriously, lavishly, grandly, and splendidly. With the help of the Spirit, he says, I will have them fight to the India for gold, ransack the ocean for Orient pearl, and search all corners of the new-found world for pigeon food and princely delicacies. Marlowe had thus endowed tragedy with a conception of character, and in a more general way with the suggestion of unending possibilities of achievement. His conception of tragedy lies in this: his heroes fight on to search their goal of success. But in their attempt, they fail, and though they are killed, the main interest of the play lies in watching them fight historically. In the conclusion, I want to say, a desire for time to stand still, plans to call on God, frustrated by Lucifer's attack, a fruitless desire to hide from divine anger, and a list of places to hide, and a wish that he had not been born with a soul, in a paroxysm of fear, in the face of double vision of God's rejection and Lucifer's ferocious welcome, Faustus is escorted to hell. The hesitations about belief that have dominated the rest of the play are now completely cleared. At the end, I want a quote from a famous Robindra Sangeet. আমি জেনে শুনে বিষ করেছি that is and I knowingly drink it. It is related with the character of Foster. He knew the future, though he had chosen the cup of poison. Thank you, man. Thank you. Over to you.
So anybody wants to share anything, any comment, any observation, anything? Can just switch on their microphones and can ask. No? Okay, then Raman, it was really a nice paper. I mean, Dr. Foster's, I don't think so there's any literature student who has not read Dr. Foster's and does not know about the tragic glimpses. But what I really liked about your paper was how you, brought in Bhagavad Gita and few other things, which, brings out a new dimension to it. So it was very interesting. Keep up the good work. A really interesting, perspective and good reading.
Thank
so
you.
Now, can we ask the next participant? Dr. Manjusha, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So yours would be first. So would you like to read now? Would you like to?
Yeah, I don't mind. If given a chance, I will do that.
Yeah, sure. So let's give her a chance. The title of her paper is Gender Neutrality in English Language, a Tool for Gender Sensitization. All the best for your paper.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. On the
You're welcome.
outset, let me thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And I'm sorry I got delayed because of the college work to join the meeting. So I'm really apologetic about it. But thanks, Sadaf ma'am, that you have given me the chance to present the paper now. I would like to share my screen. I hope the screen is visible now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll just make a slideshow. Yeah, okay. So let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Manjusha Patwardhan, Associate Professor from Department of Sociology, Bhavan Somani College, Mumbai. And the title of my paper is Gender Neutrality in English Language, a tool for gender sensitization. Uh, this paper basically is a theoretical paper based on the secondary sources of data. Uh, in introduction, I would like to comment about the role the language plays in any human society, how language is responsible for carrying the culture or passing down the culture from one generation to other. I'll also focus on historical development of language and how it started getting, you can say, gender biased towards basically the male population. And I'll talk about, in brief, gender stereotypes and bias against women in the English language. In any human socialization, language as an instrument has been used to communicate the essence of the culture of the society. Language basically shapes and molds views of people who speak that particular language. It is obviously a means of communication which is used to express thoughts, emotions, feelings, and desires by human beings. Language plays a crucial role in human society because it is through language that the culture of the society is passed down from one generation to other generation. In this paper, I have tried to analyze sexism and gender stereotypes in English language with the purpose of highlighting cultural biases towards women. And how in English language, in many subtle ways, this domination of male through the patriarchal hierarchy is depicted. So the main objectives of the paper were to study the reflection of patriarchal ideology in English language and to trace the need to develop a gender neutral or gender inclusive language, especially when we speak about equality of the sexes, definitely. Language definitely depicts certain kinds of gender stereotypes and biases against women. And if we try to look at the root of these stereotypes, we necessarily have
Sorry,
to.
I'm interrupting. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
interrupting. Would you like to share your slides also?
pardon?
Would you like to share your slides also? I mean, do you want to go on to slide number 2?
No, I'll be changing it, madam.
Okay, okay.
Is there
I
any
thought maybe,
problem with the slide?
no, no, no. I thought maybe you want to, what you're reading, maybe you've put that on the slide as well. So I
No,
thought
no, the
maybe you want
slide
to
is
share
just
it,
the.
but you forgot it.
No, the slide is just the pointers. I have not put
Okay,
the detailed information on the slide.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you,
all
ma'am.
right.
Yeah. Okay. So as I said, this study is based on the secondary sources of data, and I have used sources like books or journals in order to understand the theoretical perspectives, and I have used sociological concepts like patriarchy, sex-based division of labor, gender roles, and gender role socialization while studying this particular paper. As I said, the gender stereotypes and biases against women are definitely depicted through the language, and it's if we have a historical analysis of how languages have been developed, then this male domination becomes very clear. Basically, if you look at the beginning of the civilization, when gender roles or sex-based division of labor started taking form, in most of the societies, the cultures thrived on the male superiority and female subordination. Male members of the household were responsible to earn money and fetch livelihood by working outside the homes, whereas women were given the responsibility of managing all the household chores. So the natural outcome of this distinction and sex-based division of labor was the concentration of power in the hands of male members definitely. So men establish their power outside home in the public spheres, like say politics or philosophy and even literature. Therefore, language also started taking shape with the reflection of male dominant ideology, and it created an institutionalized gender bias. So this became the main reason why the idea of male dominated society with distinct gender roles contributed to the intricate differences in the male and female connotations, and the impact of this is still felt even in today's contemporary society. For theoretical perspective, I have taken help of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is also known as the hypothesis of linguistic reality, which holds that world is seen and understood by people through the cultural lens of language, and therefore language spoken by people determine their thoughts and their actions. So according to this hypothesis, language not only shapes the thinking and behavior of people, but it also restrains all human thoughts and actions. So this is the main theory on which I have based this paper. As I said, I have used sociological concepts because I come from the discipline of sociology. So definitely patriarchal ideology, which gives preference to males, or which definitely looks at females as subordinate to males. Language is the main, you can say, carrier of the patriarchal ideology, carrier, and it helps spreading the patriarchal ideology through the particular words used. Then, as we have seen in historical times, also it is the sex-based division of labor which definitely gave importance to the males' work, or the jobs performed by the males and not the jobs performed by the females. Because in sociology, there is a concept that when male members work outside and their labor is exchanged for money, so their labor definitely has exchange value, whereas the females who work within the household, their labor does not definitely get exchanged by money. They are not remunerated by any kind of monetary gains. So a female's labor necessarily has use value, and because of this difference between exchange value work which is done by males and use value work which is done by females, the male members got a superior hand because they were considered to be the main breadwinners. And even in the language, this kind of male domination is clearly observed. So again, sex-based division of labor speaks about the gender roles, clear-cut division between man's work and a woman's work. And gender role socialization plays a very crucial role. That means the boys and the girls in our society are socialized differently, are taught different kinds of things right from when they are growing up, basically keeping in mind their future roles in society. So to sum up all these theoretical explanations and conceptual frameworks which I have used, we can easily say that it is the patriarchal social norms and cultural values of a given society. They are inculcated amongst the members to create a desired social order and perpetuate that order, and language definitely plays a significant role in completing or accomplishing this task. Now I would like to draw your attention to the two types of languages. I mean, two types of, you can say, terms which are used. One are a gender stereotypical language, and another is gender neutral language. So when it comes to gender stereotypes in language, and if you look at the nouns which are used, say in English language, there are certain nouns definitely which are not gender specific, in the sense these nouns refer to the roles and professions, as well as avoidance of the pronouns he, him, and his, to refer to people to refer to people of all categories of gender. I mean, if you look at the history textbook, okay, it will always say that man invented this and this. Okay, so here the term man is necessarily used to apply to all the humanity, not necessarily, to not exclude women from this, but this has been the pattern that, we always have spoken about man inventing things. Another interesting kind of feminist making when it comes to the discipline of history, they always say that history is basically his story, where women get completely excluded because the entire focus is on the male members because of the male domination. Then again, there are certain kinds of terms, for example, chairman or fireman or policeman. I mean, these kinds of terminologies give us an impression that women cannot function in those jobs or in those occupations. So again, here it comes about, focusing upon the male supremacy or male superiority, and we fail to understand, or we literally fail to look at women occupying those particular jobs. When I speak about gender neutral language, I'll definitely speak about the alternative terms which can be used to such kinds of language. Then again, there are certain kinds of phrases which are used in our culture. Like whenever a small boy, even who is say 4 or 5 years of age, and he starts crying, uh, a natural comment which is made is, why are you crying like a girl? So it is okay for the girls to cry, because in sociology there is this differentiation between what is considered as masculine and what is considered as feminine. So emotional or emotions definitely is associated to be a feminine characteristic, and not sorry, and not a masculine characteristic. So even emotions which are so natural to individuals, so natural to people, still we make this kind of a distinction between the phrases also which we can use. Then again, in titles and names, there is this discrimination which is found. For example, all men are referred to as Mr. Okay, but when it comes to referring to a female, the distinction is made between Mrs. and Miss. So necessarily, Mrs. denotes the marital, you can say, a status of a woman. Okay, in men's, when you are referring to men, there is no such kind of a discrimination. So why it is so important to actually pinpoint the marital status of women by using the term Miss or Mrs. So that is also another gender bias, definitely, which is found in English language. Instead of using such gender titles, obviously we need to use gender neutral language. So for businessman, you can call a person in business or a business people, something like that. Then for chairman, the gender neutral term definitely would be chairperson. For policeman, it can be police personnel. For firemen, it could be firefighters. So actually, there are words which are gender neutral and which do not exclude any kind of a gender from this particular language. Another very important issue from sociological perspective is exclusion of the third gender completely from the language. Okay, we always use the term, I mean pronouns he, him, his, and he, her, she, her, and hers, she and her. So basically, we don't even take into consideration the existence of so many people who do not identify themselves in these two categories, male and female. So gender binary definitely is focused in English language, and we do not consider that there can be an existence of a third gender category of people who are sizable in number, who do not identify with this gender binary. So definitely, I mean, in English language, it is a very clear-cut distinction between, men and women. There are gender stereotypes. There are gender biases, but we definitely need to have a gender-neutral language. So there is a need to sensitize people about the use of gender-neutral language. So, to conclude this particular paper, I would like to say that language definitely is a universal human phenomenon, and English language, as it is spoken today, has definitely evolved with patriarchy. It has been developed in such a way that it perfectly suits the patriarchal practices and phenomena. Therefore, feminists all over the world are trying to create this awareness about sexism in language, and as a counter strategy, they are trying to propose and promote non-sexist vocabulary. So language spoken in any society does reflect gender relations and status of women in that particular society. And there is a need to create gender sensitization among people for effective use of gender neutral language. The only way to change gender stereotypes in English language is using language that is fair to all genders. Rather than using gender coded words, gender neutral words could be used. The new wave of gender fair language will certainly bring a ray of hope to encompass all genders in a wide variety of gender spectrum. And the spread in awareness of using gender neutral language will lead to gender inclusivity, a step closer to equal representation of variety of genders and fairness of all genders. So that is the dire need, that we need to create this gender neutral language in order to include all the people belonging to different gender spectrum into the mainstream of society. With this, I have finished my presentation. The references have been put in this slide, and once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my views. Thank you so much.
So any question, any comment, any observation, anybody wants to share? No? Such an interesting, yeah. Anita, yeah, go ahead.
My question is about the use of the term third gender, because when you say third gender, doesn't it suggest that there is a first and a second, first being masculine and the second sex being feminine?
Right, obviously. I mean, as I said, this is exactly how the language gives primacy to certain kinds of genders. So even while, the categories, when, for example, you are filling up any form, you have to define your sex, so male, female, and others. Okay, so this others definitely creates a divide between we and them. Okay, so there we need to definitely change and have to use certain kinds of words which are, gender neutral. So as you rightly said, the third gender, I mean, calling them third also puts them below in the hierarchy after first and second. So definitely there is a need to maybe invent certain kinds of terms which are gender neutral, which does not create any kind of hierarchy or feeling of superiority or inferiority. Thank you so much,
ma'am.
Anita ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody else? That was a very interesting question because, definitely you want to see all the genders, and because it's the need of the day also today, where, you give everybody his or her due, I mean, can be brought to the fore. So it's very important that today we talk about gender neutrality. Very important. So anybody else? So, Dr. Manjusha, I think no more questions for you. But a very interesting paper, I would say. Your paper reminds me of two particular ads. One I saw where they show that, it's always said, boys don't cry. Boys can't
Right.
cry. You even said about that. So that's a very interesting advertisement, if you all have seen, where, when parents are leaving the boy for the school, he starts crying. The mother says, boys don't cry. When one of the boys, he loses the match, and the coach says, boys don't cry. Why? They don't have emotions. Why can't they cry? And another advertisement I saw, it was beautiful, where a young girl, I think probably of the age 3 or 4, asked her mother this thought-provoking question. And the question is that, Mom, why is it mankind? Why the word is mankind and not womankind? Why can't it be humankind? Why it is mankind? And she, I think, probably was the age of 3 or 4. And her mother, she cannot answer her back because she has no answer. So, very interesting, Dr. Manjusha. And of course, this is the need of the day, where we need to talk about gender neutrality, and language has played a very, very important role in creating this distinction. And I think it is through language only that we can, do away with the distinction that has been created over so many years. And it has, so deeply enrooted in our psyche that even we at times say these words. It's not that, though we are in today's world, and we realize that what we all know what is gender neutrality, but in spite of it, we have the habit of using those words. Even we don't take care. So I think it is this needs to be worked upon, and definitely language is the means, because it was through language that it was created, and I think it is language only that can take away and can bring in that neutrality that you were talking about. So a very interesting paper, and the best part was you brought the holistic view, where you talked about all the genders. It wasn't only masculine and feminine. You even talked about the transgenders. They also require that too. So a very interesting and a holistic paper, a holistic view. So kudos. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So can we take the next paper now? So the next one is Liana, if I'm pronouncing correctly. Yeah,
Yes,
Liana
ma'am.
is a research.
Liana.
Yeah, she's a research scholar from Department of English and Foreign Languages, Chennai, right?
Yes.
And the title of her paper is Life Beyond Religion: The Politics of Identity in Azhar, Nafisi's Riddlin Lolita in Tehran,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Reading
all the
the
best for
book.
your paper. Yeah, all
Yeah,
the best.
I'll share my screen now.
Sure.
Is it visible?
Yeah, Liana, it's visible.
Okay. Good morning to one and all. I'm Liana. As ma'am said, I'm a research scholar, and I'm from SRM University, Chennai. My title of my paper is Life Beyond Religion: The Politics of Identity in Azan Nafis's Lolita in Tehran. This paper examines Azan Nafis's memoir, Reading Lolita in Tehran, in a hermeneutic fashion through descriptive analysis of Michel Foucault's view on power, knowledge, and discourse. So this is the author, Azan Nafizi. She is an Iranian-American writer, and you can see her education there. She works as a professor of English literature. So before talking about this, if it's better if you know a bit of a history of Iranian Revolution, so you understand the paper better. So the country of Iran started out around 6th century BC, and men and women both had equal rights. However, by 5th century BC, the Islamic religion infiltrated Iran and took away many women's rights. This oppression lasted for a long time until Shah family took control in 1925. Under the Shah rule, women were liberated. They were allowed to dress how they want, attend school, work, and other things. As great as this may sound, many families in Iran were not ready for this amount of change because they are traditional family. So the government was overthrown in 1979, and the new leader, Khomeini, took control. The revolution, there happened the Iranian Revolution with Khomeini. So the revolution was supported by various Islamist and leftist organizations and student movements. Khomeini took away nearly all of the rights of women that was given by Shah. Women were unable to leave their houses without being accompanied, unable to attend school, unable to work unless allowed by their husband. So basically what's happening right now in Afghanistan under the rule of Taliban. While some of these laws have become far less extreme by now, they are still implemented in some ways. This discrimination and the terror people had to go through, even though it was experienced by all the citizens, it was women who were oppressed the most. So then happened 1980 Iran-Iraq war, which made it worse. So introduction of the book, Reading Lolita in Tehran. So here, Nafisi and her chosen 7 students, all women, in secrecy met at her house, Nafisa's house, and they'll discuss literature, especially Western literature, because many literature like Lolita, Gatsby, James, and Austen, they were all banned in Iran under this Khomeini's Islamic Republic government. So they discuss the themes of oppression and revolution and everything. So here we see how through their interaction a new discourse is formed, and which does not parallel with their government. So I've used the terms identity politics, and discourse. So let me give you an idea of what these words mean. So I'll connect identity and identity politics together and I'll speak. So identity is a sense of being rooted in certain spatio-temporal condition. So a feel of belonging is one among the most compelling of the contemporary concerns. Such individual phenomenon. Identity is one's individual phenomenon, but has its root in the social and cultural norms, yet has a political basis. So I'm connecting the identity to identity politics now. A fair amount of power is used by the individuals to claim, express, and contextualize their identities. So it is not unexpected of the social institution, like political institution, to give attention to issues related to identity. Let it be national, religious, sexual, ethnic, racial, or anything. The working of this globe can be considered on the basis of identity. Ownership, control, war, love, everything that is essential to life involve identity in different forms. This presence of identity in every human action is what makes it so powerful, and one could use it to organize, divide, dominate, or mutually coexist in this world. So I just told like a small term like identity, like one's own identity, how powerful it is, and what it could do. So identity politics, like if I'm to give a definition, it is a political approach wherein people of a particular gender, religion, race, social background, class, or other identifying factors develop political agendas uh, that are based upon theoretical interacting systems of oppression that may affect their lives and come from their various identities. Now, moving on to discourse, what Michel Foucault's idea of discourse is. Michel Foucault looked at discourse as a precursor to understanding systems of representation. Here, discourse would simply mean textual passages that are connected by writing or speech. What Foucault argued was that there are rules and practices that produce meaningful structures and regulate discourses within the given historical conditions. Discourse refers to thoughtful utterance by the means of language, and that represent critical minds capable of creating polyphonic, like different kind of interpretation of different voices. It provides a language with a way of representing knowledge about a particular subject matter with a given historical context. It governs the way we talk about knowledge, how we rationalize about it. So basically discusses how we speak about something, what is our meaning of a subject matter. Therefore, discourse secures a logical ground for the formation and strengthening of identity. So I have just connected the discourse and identity. Our meaning of our perspective of something is what gives us identity. So that's how discourse and identity is connected in this paper. Identity information through discourses. So how identity is formed in these women, in Nafisi and her companions or her women students here under the situation, under the chaotic situation of the Iranian government. In Foucauldian discourse, identity becomes something that is expected to be developed by a community through a set of examples and standards that are made by the rulers. Here the rulers are Khomeini's Islamic Republic of government, and this eventually become the criteria to fit in, like for the citizens to fit in and to acquire a sense of belonging. It is the repetition that creates a pattern and put forth such criteria. So some government comes, they put a pattern and they repeat it. That becomes the law of the of the country, and the people who stick on that become a part of it, and they have this feeling of belonging. They acquired the identity. So, Foucault, in his book Discipline and Punish, describes how, through spectacle of punishment, the monarch expected everyone to learn what is accepted and what is not. The same mannerism, but on different levels, can still be seen in most of the modern states, where a uniformity is exerted by the state on the people to follow blindly in order to blend in, utilizing identity in politics. So, utilizing identity in the sense using religion. Religion is one of our identities. So, politician, how they use it to exert a uniformity in the state. During the Iranian Revolution, the sudden replacement of Pahlavi dynasty by Islamic Republic under Khomeini changed the whole system of the governments. This changed the whole discourse of identity prevailed before, giving another meaning for identity. The way one talks and acts about it. Khomeini skillfully constructed a sense of good about the people who were obedient and a sense of bad about the people who were disobedient and resisting. What made this easier is the fact that the new constitution is constructed under religious laws, and most of the people were not ready to disobey it because it's religious laws, as the pattern is already deep rooted in the Islamic community of Iran. The new regime simply had to modify and twist the age-old Islamic rules to bend the population towards their side, to impose a uniformity and to take control over them. So, like we are very familiar how the politicians bend they give religion a new meaning and make people follow them for their own benefits. In the memoir, Reading Lolita in Tehran, it is primarily Nafisi's identity that is shaped and modified by daily and ordinary conversational interactions, which is completely different from the discourses of identity prevailing in Iran, especially after the Iranian Revolution. Others, Western education. Why Nafisi formed a different discourse than of the people who are there in Iran is because of her education that changed how she defines identity. The meaning, she has educated from UK and US, so that made her to think differently. The meaning she gave for it came from the exposure she got while she studied in London. Nafisi is a voracious reader who loved Western literature. Reading can change and broaden how one gives meaning for a subject matter. This exposure and wide reading can consider as the knowledge Nafisi acquired to question the newly constructed discourses for identity by the Islamic Republic. One's identity is not fixed, but is always under transformation, negotiating and changing. This gradual process of transformation of Nafisi's self-identity under the socio-political situation she had to experience is shown throughout the memoir. Power is based on knowledge and makes use of knowledge. On the other hand, power reproduces knowledge by shaping it in accordance with its anonymous intentions. So this shows how power and knowledge is interrelated. It is when the government went to an extent of banning the books which were considered vulgar and sinful under the Islamic Republic by allowing only to teach Maxim Gorky and Mike Gold, Nafisi and her students had to create a secret group to discuss Nabokov, Fitzgerald, James and Austen. They resonated with the fictional characters and the ideas inside those books. They used these books as an escape. They read then with the chaotic practices real word exerted on them. Discourses cannot be always taught to everyone in a community throughout exemplifying by the exertion of power or a particular group, as it can be also acquired by knowledge. With this, I conclude my presentation. Iran's unwelcomed and unpleasant change in the socio-political situation made the unfolding of the truth by truth itself necessary. Will to truth cannot be possible without the free will which helps one to form self-identity. No one can impose this to the population to a very long time, as the will to truth unmasks itself through the free minds like Nafisi here, those who dare to question. The memoir concentrates mainly on the identity of women in Iran, how they were veiled to have any identity at all. The authority wanted to make the women disappear by dictatorially silencing and taking away even the basic rights of choices by invading their privacy and taking complete control over them. And that's the end of the slide. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Anybody wants to ask a question? Any comment? Any observation? No? Liana, a very interesting paper. Now, the thing that I liked most about your paper was the way you have applied the theory part, you know, Michel Foucault, the way you applied. Is it a part of your PhD thesis?
Yeah, I am.
I could make out because you've so beautifully put the theory in between. That's what we try to tell our students these days. This is how you need to apply theory when you take a text. So I could make out that this is a part of your PhD thesis, but very well written paper because, you know, of course, these things need to be questioned, you know, and especially as you said, after Iranian Revolution, when Khomeini came and things changed, and how it changed for women so drastically. Women were given all the rights and they had all the freedom, and all of a sudden they couldn't even move out of their houses without a male counterpart. Which kind of, you know, all freedom of a lady's curbed when you know, put such kind of restrictions. So yes, these things need to be questioned. And plus, in today's world, you know, if you live in such a society where in the name of freedom you're given nothing, so a very interesting paper and a thought-provoking paper. And you know, wants to, you know, raise many questions, which I think especially the women belonging to Afghanistan, to Iran, they need answers to those questions. So I think work like such will bring it to the fore, will tell the world what needs to be done. So very well done, Liana. All the best for your submission.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now we are left with the last presentation. This is Kavita Mahali. She's
Yes,
assistant. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
I am audible, ma'am.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are.
Ma'am, let me first share my screen.
Sure. Till then, I'll introduce you. She is assistant professor in the Department of English, NKBMG College, MJP, right? And the title, and the title of her paper is Female Identity Crisis in Doris Lessing's Children of Violence. Kavita, all the best for your paper.
Ma'am, can you see my screen, ma'am?
Yeah, I can. Yes, we can.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, good morning, ma'am. Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
I am Kavita Mahali. My title of my paper, Female Identity Crisis in Doris Lessing, Children of Violence. First of all, I will introduce abstract. Doris Lessing, the first Nobel Prize winner for literature, portrays the fundamental problem of women as well as social system of her times. The present study aims to discuss comprehensively the female identity crisis in Doris Lessing, The Children of Violence. The research paper clearly examines some basic issues concerning the way in which women live their lives in a male-dominated society and the extent of freedom they would expect to enjoy. Doris Lessing turned to 5-volume series entitled Children of Violence. The series comprises Martha Quest 1952, A Proper Marriage 1954, A Ripple from the Storm 1958, Landlocked 1965, and The Four-Gated City 1969. This research paper highlights the fragmentations within the identity of the protagonist in The Children of Violence by discussing not only the various episodes and aspects in her life, but also by relating it to the different episodes in the structure of the novel. And introduction. Doris Lessing is best known for her novels, short stories, and essays, which are largely concerned with the people fought in the social and political upheavals of the 20th century. She is described as the most fearless women novelist in the world, an ambitious ex-communist and uncompromising feminist. She is now widely regarded as one of the world's most celebrated women writers living today. The present Martha's childhood revolts against parents and conventions, association with the sports club, marriages, rewards, submissions of self to the discipline of the Communist Party, resulting in her disillusionment and her decision to visit England, the land of free speech. In the last of the novel, in the last novel of the content, we find Martha as a passive and sympathetic observation in London after the war. Doris Lessing in Martha Quest, book first of Children of Violence, focuses on this aspect of women's problems and shows that a woman has no choice but to bow down to social convention, traditions, and moral obligations. In Martha Quest, Lessing traces various stages in the personality of Martha, who passes from girlhood to womanhood on a farm in Rhodesia. Mrs. Quest, in shaping Martha strictly according to English traditions and putting many don'ts in her dress and makeup. She did not like that Martha should meet men, especially Jewish shopkeepers, the Cohen wives, for several reasons. Martha Quest also became aware of how gender discrimination is practiced in her family. While her younger brother, with half her brains, was put in an expensive school like the Visitor from a more prosperous world. She was studying in a local school. The awareness of the biased attitude makes her self-reliant and defiant towards her parents, and she decides to seek her own identity outside the parental fold. Martha wanted to free so that she would do what she liked and not what her parents or others would have her do. This was the fear troubled her when she saw how conventional Ellen was, how submissive and resigned. In fact, Martha and Ellen were poles apart. Later on, Martha came to know that Ellen had married a man from the Cape at the bidding of her parents. When Martha married Douglas Lovell, who was an efficient executive officer, she finds the disgusting behavior by her husband. Immediately after marriage, she is dragged from one party to another. Here, Douglas is repeatedly reminded of for his good luck and congratulated on his applications by his friends. Returning from a bar one night, he tells Martha people's opinion about her and endorses it too. Martha, however, does not believe in becoming an object of amusement or decorations for her husband. She does not subscribe to the views held by her friend Stella that it's your duty to your husband to look nice and disdains female races played by women to keep their husbands under their thumb. She does not want to be known as a paragon of beauty and craves for no conventional phrases like, quote, her cheeks like apples within the sun hath rutted, her lips like cherries charming, meant to bite, her breast like to bowl of cream uncurried. She wants to be recognized as a complete individual in her own right to attain individuality and independence. Martha rejects this feminine mystic, which glorifies only the physical beauty and the utility of women. She does not want to be applauded only with the hypocrisy of cheap sentiment. Martha further does not want to identify herself with her husband or become merely an appendage to him. For that reason, she has no liking for Mrs. Maynard or Mr. Talbot or women like them. She enjoys the status and wealth of their husband. She finds satisfaction in being unique individual altogether achieve, apart from any other person, a condition which is essential for achieving self-reliance. Martha, a seeker of freedom, feels concern for the poor blacks in Rhodesia and joins the left group to help the oppressed. Marriage appears to an encroachment on her precious privacy, and she soon realizes that she has made a foolish mistake in getting married. She feels bored, caged, and trapped as if net was tightening around her. This awareness gradually leads her to a state of conflicting emotions, which is aggravated by people pressurizing influence on her to remain properly married. And come to the conclusion. In the end, we can say that Martha suffered because of male dominance. Martha left home to be free woman and achieve complete selfhood, could not escape psychological disorder, and had to consult Dr. Lamb. Lessing knows that such a declaration of freedom is not a solution to the problem. The novelists reveal the suffering caused by the oppressions of men, yet they are not against men as such, nor do they advocate a separatist instance. He envisions a world which should be based on equality, sharing, and harmony between the two sexes, where the needs, the functions, the virtue of women are valued equally along with those of men. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Is there any question, any comment, any observation? Anybody wants to share anything? No, Kavita ji. So there's no question for you. Kavita ji, very
Yes,
well
ma'am.
written paper, very well written paper. And
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, I mean, this is what is the basis of this conference. And I think all these deliberations, all these papers are going to be uh, will prove very fruitful, because through these deliberations then we bring all these questions to the fore. So very well done. So before I end this session, I want to thank the organizers for having given me this opportunity to you listen to such interesting papers, where all these thought-provoking questions, deliberations, which we need to think on in today's world, when especially we talk about this female identity crisis, this gender neutrality. These things are so important. And once again, all the best to you, all the paper readers. Very well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you, the organizers, that is the Cape
Thank you, ma'am.
Covenant Trust, and Bishop Kuriala Cherry College, Kerala. Thank you for having given me this opportunity. So, all the best for your future. Very well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Sadash, for chairing this session and giving us your valuable insights. I also thank all the participants for presenting their papers. Once again, thank you. Have a great day ahead.